Take 357. It's been a while. Thank everybody for keeping faith. Special shout out to Ted Cook. Thanks for the support, man. Ted Crocs, as usual. My man, Night of the Shield. I was actually at the Denver game, and I thought I remember you saying that you were that you're normally in. I forget if you said parking lot C or parking lot B. So imagine me walking around the parking lot, and I was there hella early, trying to walk around the entire parking lot, which I covered all of C and B, looking for a Mexican guy with a mustache and a goatee wearing sunglasses. It was a needle in a haystack. I will be at the Jet game, and so night we have to hook up. Also, special apology to Tony McElvin, because I said I was going to be at the games and we were trying to hook up. All kind of technical difficulties, brother. We'll have to make it happen. Communicate with me on this video. We're gonna do something. Like I said, I'm gonna be at the Jet game, and night I must meet you. A lot of stuff to cover. I'm not gonna try to cover everything I've missed over this time. I at one point actually really wanted to make a video about C.O. Moore, because I found that situation interesting and disheartening, and so I will comment on the situation, even though it's a little bit in our past now. My perspective on the C.O. Moore situation was, first, because of the way that the Raiders have been doing business lately, it was never communicated to the fans the seriousness of Seal's injury. Seal's injury was very, very serious. He had a Bo Jackson type injury, which means at the end of the day, C.O. Moore is never going to be the player physically that he was before. And because of that, he'll never reach his potential. He'll never be the player he was before. He'll never reach his potential. And my perspective on him being traded relates directly to the seriousness of his injury. Mikey Rader did an excellent video detailing some of the situations that occurred with him and the organization, and Jack Del Rio in particular. And I have no doubt that Mikey's information was solid. He's not going to tell us a bunch of stuff that's, based on fiction. So the things that he said in his video about C.O. Moore, I'm going to say, I'll give you all that, and I'm going to say that's a given. But I'm going to add this, that he wasn't traded because of his attitude. C.O. Moore is not with the team because he's not the player that he could be or could have been because of the injury. And the fact that they directly went out and got a player who's been suspended by the league for serious infractions tells me a lot about the fact that I believe I'm right. And for two reasons. One, because you don't get rid of a guy because you don't like his attitude, and then get a guy who's been in trouble with the league for a player who hasn't been in trouble with the league. And also, if that's your intention, is about the integrity of the team and all that good stuff. And also that the Raiders, I don't think this man's name is slipping my mind right now. You know him, Aldon Smith. That when Aldon Smith was released by the 49ers and he was in negotiations, I believe he talked to 4 or 5 teams, but it was very clear almost from the outset that the Raiders were a front runner in the pursuit of Smith, and they knew, my perspective, they knew they were very close to signing him, just before they released Seal Moore, so that made that easy. And the fact that the player who actually started in front of Seal Moore, who once again his name is slipping me too, but the missed tackle linebacker, you guys know who I'm talking about, was clearly not anywhere near the player that Seal Moore was. But like I said, they knew they had Aldon Smith lined up, so that made that possible. Okay, moving forward, we were all very excited with the Raiders winning back-to-back games, and there was reason to be excited, and it was good news. And also the fact that they broke their streak of losing games on the road, that they were actually able to put that to sleep. That was good news for all of us, and we were all very excited about the prospects for the team. Some of us more than others. If you've seen the other videos, and most of you are faithful followers, so you've seen the other videos, you know that my perspective coming to this season was more or less a watch and see, wait and see attitude, and try not to get too high, try not to get too low, because of the constantly changing coaching staff of this team, because of the constant turnover on the roster. Coming to the season, I more or less had no expectations for this team. It doesn't mean I expect them to do bad. It also doesn't mean I expect them to do good. I literally had no expectations for this team. And I came in with a view toward just observing them and watching to see how they do, and watching the character the team develops, and watching to see what the coaching staff does, and the development of players, especially a player like Carr. And with a lot of hope that they would recognize that Latavius Murray actually is that good, and the hope that the things that they were saying about building a great defense and using the players on the roster, and the success that Musgrave has had with other running backs, and looking forward to him really using Latavius, and Latavius having a great season. And let me also, full disclosure, ironically, that's a Raider calendar, and this month's special featured player is Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is my favorite player on the roster right now. And this is, of course, outside of Charles Woodson, who needs to be everybody's favorite player. But back to Murray. I actually was lucky enough, at the time that Latavius was drafted, I was visiting family in Florida, and so was able to get some coverage that the Bay Area didn't get, and California just generally didn't get, about Latavius and his background. And so from the time he was drafted, I was actually pretty excited about his prospects, even though he was a very low round draft pick. And to see him actually come in, and originally for them to take so long to give him his shot behind some of the worst running backs in the league. As a matter of fact, behind Drew, who at the time was the worst running back on our roster, that had the worst running game since the 1940s, and to see it take so long for Latavius to finally get his shot, and then we did, to see how successful he was. Latavius is good. He's really good. He's so good. In fact, in my opinion, he has the potential to be one of the top backs in the league. And even watching this season, even at times where his blocking isn't that good, for him to still be able to get yardage. And frankly, a lot of the play calling has just been abysmal as far as the running game goes. And the fact that we use the term patchwork line a lot, but we do kind of have a patchwork line. And for this point in the season, I'm feeling like maybe they don't have enough horses on the offensive line. Of course, we'd all like to see more creative play calling. I would like to see them run the ball more. I would like to see them make a more determined effort to establish a running game, to force a running game on other teams. Derek Carr, I like Derek Carr for the Raiders. I really do. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a smart person. I think sometimes, frankly, he's a little bit overconfident. Given his pedigree, he's a little bit overconfident sometimes. But I think he has the potential to be a great quarterback. And sometimes right now I feel like maybe the coaching staff is putting too much on him, because for anyone who's watched football for a long time, you know that a young quarterback's best friend is a good running game. And when Latavius is not in the game, generally speaking, they don't have a good running game. Now, this notwithstanding, 2 weeks ago, the abysmal turnovers that he had, but he's a young player. He hasn't gotten much touches. Up till then, Latavius hadn't fumbled, and Latavius actually has really good hands. I don't know that they need to be lining them up at wide receiver the way they like to do with their running backs so much. But as a running back, Latavius actually has good hands that can catch the ball. So I just really want to see him get more of an opportunity. But back to the team as overall, and especially the coaching staff, that Jack Del Rio clearly has flaws as a coach. But the thing that I'm seeing that's the most important thing, or the bigger overall thing with him, is that this season is more or less on the job training, and the team as a whole is definitely a work in progress. And as we all feel that it's been a long time since this team's been a winner. It's been a long time since we could count on the team showing that it was consistently a good team, that it would play well week in and week out, whether it won or lost, that they would play well and they would always be competitive and they would always be a threat. It's been a long time. And frankly, for a lot of the young fans, I was thinking about this the other day, the fact that when Rich Gannon was here and the team was actually, and Gruden was here and the team was actually good, man, that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. And then after that, the Hugh Jackson era, and I'm going to consider that the 2 years he was here, because as far as I'm concerned, he was most responsible for the success in the 2 years he was here, because before he came here, if you remember, the Raiders could not score. And so for him to be here 2 years and for the team to be 8-8, in my world, that has become the standard. And that is a standard that I would hold Jack Del Rio to in terms of being successful. If he was 8-8 this year, I would consider him successful. Anything less than that is open to question. And the reality is, as fans, we're not in, and no one wants to feel like, well, they played hard, or we saw this and this was good, and this or this over here was good. We want to measure, and we should be measuring the coach by the record. Did they win? That's it. Did they win? And if at the end of the season you have a whole bunch of losses piled up and a few wins, Um, I was at the Denver game. It's a very interesting experience to see the Raiders, who have been up and down this year, come in against the division leader, a team that's undefeated, and watch them play and watch them really handle Denver. The defense put the locks on Peyton Manning in the entire Denver offense. It really did. Charles Woodson went out and showed us why he is going to be a Hall of Famer. There was nothing more, in my opinion, that the defense could have done. The defense balled out. They played great. And the team absolutely competed with the Broncos, and minus the missed field goals by Janikowski, it looked like they were about to choke the Broncos out. No one can tell me the last time that the Raiders put together a defensive effort that they put against the Broncos. They did not allow an offensive touchdown. So that's some field goals. Some field goals. I think the Denver Broncos were 15% on third downs. When was the last time we saw the Raiders get off the field on third downs that consistently? When? Never. We haven't seen that. They played great. It was a disappointing end, of course. And as Night of the Shield pointed out, the flyby that the Blue Angels did was just weird. It was just strange. I've actually seen the Blue Angels a number of times, and I actually have seen documentaries about them. And occasionally, they're a very disciplined group, but occasionally they will freestyle and just decide to do something as a group. And I can only guess that that's what that was, because I can't remember ever seeing the Blue Angels do a flyover that either wasn't at the beginning of the game or at halftime. I've never just seen them randomly during the game do that. And it was much as Night of the Shield described. It was just as the play happened, you hear this sound, you look up, and pick six. It was strange, and then it had this weird salt in the wound feel to it. But on to other topics. The Raiders clearly have some horses on this roster. The Raiders also clearly have holes on this roster, and they have continuity issues that need to be worked out. Probably some communication that needs to be worked out between whatever the coaches are telling Carr and what he's hearing, or between what he's seeing on the field and what they think is happening on the field. Because his consistency has been up and down. I also want to mention this. Charles Woodson was making plays all over the field, and several times during the game, and when I say several, I mean more